Today I'm going to be talking about how I almost had skin cancer. Very fun topic, right? Part of the reason I'm sharing my story is because I have a passion for biology and I also have a passion for helping people. If this video can help even one person, I'll be satisfied. Let's start at the very beginning. Let's rewind until probably February of 2019. So February 2019, I had just graduated college a little over a month ago. I had started my first full-time job with my first full-time salary, which was great because that meant that I could actually afford to buy new clothes. So what did I do? I went shopping. So I went and got this shirt. Can you tell that I like stripes? I really liked this shirt, mainly because it has this cute little cutout in the back. You can see it cuts a little bit lower in the back with this little piece to hold it together. After I bought this shirt, obviously, I wore it. And I think this was pretty much my first shirt that had this kind of low swooping cutout. And obviously at the time I wasn't really in a bathing suit that often because it was winter. Even though it was winter in Texas, it was still winter, it was still cold, you know? I'm not spending much time in a bathing suit. So one day I was wearing this shirt and my roommate and good friend said to me, "Hey Audrey, you have this mole on your back. Have you noticed it? Have you checked it out?" And I said, yeah, I saw it. I'm keeping an eye on it. Don't worry. She said, okay, cool. Just wanted to make sure you know, which I really appreciated. So from then on, I started monitoring it, just keeping an eye on it to see if it was getting any bigger or changing. So at the time, I didn't take any pictures of it because I just thought, it's whatever, I'll just keep an eye on it. So first tip, if you notice a mole that you want to keep an eye on, take pictures of it. Don't just rely on your memory to know if it's changing or not. Take a picture of it, have some sort of documentation and a timeline so that you can actually compare what it looks like as time goes on. And fast forward to June, I realized, oh, I haven't checked in on my mole in a while, so let's take a look. And I looked at it and I thought, okay, I think it looks bigger, but like I said, I hadn't taken any pictures of it. So I didn't have really a frame of reference. I was just going off of what I could remember. I said, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and take a picture of it. I think it's gotten bigger, but I can't really tell. So I'm gonna take a picture of it, and in a few months, I'll take another picture and I'll compare it to what it looks like today. Fast forward a few more months, actually it wasn't a few more months, it was really just like a month and a half. So fast forward a month and a half, I take another picture of it to compare it, and sure enough, it looked slightly bigger, and at least the borders of it, the edges of it looked different. It didn't look a lot bigger, but it still looked, to me, noticeably bigger. And really any change that you're seeing over the course of 8 weeks, to me, that's pretty significant. So at that time, I decided to go ahead and make an appointment with a dermatologist. I hopped on Google, I found a dermatologist in the area that I was living in, and I scheduled an appointment to get this mole checked out. I believe it was maybe a week after I had made that side-by-side picture comparison that I went to my appointment, and they ended up doing a biopsy, which basically they take off the mole, but it's just like the top layer of the mole. They don't take out the whole thing. They're just taking off that top layer, and they send it to pathology. Pathology is the lab that looks at diseases within tissues. I get a call from them maybe 2 weeks after this appointment, and they said, hey Audrey, so we got your results back. They're saying that it is a severely dysplastic nevus, and they're recommending a complete excision of the mole. Me, being a biologist, being a scientist, especially loving cellular biology, I dove into looking up what melanoma is, how it forms, how it spreads, what stage could it potentially be. Nevus just means mole. Any freckles or moles, those are all nevi on your body. And it wasn't a cancer, but it was severely dysplastic, and that means that it was severely irregular. Cancers are formed from abnormalities within your cells. So really, I didn't have to have it removed. I could have kept it and I guess kept an eye on it. But I would rather be safe than sorry. I would rather have an ugly scar on my back than potentially develop a cancer that could travel into my bloodstream and affect other organs, and that's when it becomes so deadly. So I scheduled the appointment for the complete excision, and a week after that I go in. And now at this point, this is September of 2019, a little over 6 months after I first noticed this mole, or it was first pointed out to me. And I want to point that out to show you the timeline of how your moles grow. So mid-September, I had the complete excision of my mole, and I had, I think, 8 stitches, something like that. She did a continuous stitch, so it wasn't really counted as individual stitches, but I think I had 8. And let me tell you, the stitches, the healing from stitches, and the immediate days that followed, it was the worst. I was at a steady 3 for pain. I didn't get any heavy-duty pain medicines. She just said, take ibuprofen and Tylenol. Actually, I want to say, now that I think about it, I think ibuprofen thins your blood. And so she said, don't take ibuprofen. I was just taking Tylenol. Even with the Tylenol that I was taking, I was still at a constant 3. I mean, I still went to the store, but for the most part, I was just immobile, and I sat on the couch and I played Sims for like 2 weeks straight because it just hurt. Especially those first 5 days. Anytime that I'd be moving, the pain shot up to probably like a 6 or 7. And even just laying there perfectly still with ice packs, I was still at like a steady, constant underlying 3. So that really sucked. Not to mention that every day I needed to change the bandaging. And it's on the middle of my back, the middle upper of my back. And I can't really exactly reach that normally, let alone when I'm so sore and it hurts to move. So I'm so thankful I was living with my sister at the time, because she was basically like my nurse, even though it really grossed her out. Disclaimer, I'm going to insert pictures of my back after the surgery. So if you're not into gory or anatomical things, look away right now. So my sister so lovingly described me as looking like a ham. Like, you know how they like tie hams together with the cooking twine? Yeah, she said my back looked like a ham. And honestly, she was right. It looked really gross. My loving sister would help me clean it. It really grossed her out, but thank goodness for her, because I literally could not reach it myself. Maybe a week into it, my pain was down a lot. I still had to be very gentle with it because it was still very tender. But by that point, I was able to reach and at least take off the previous bandaging and wash it and get the ointments on. And I would really just need her help in putting the new bandage on, and it eventually got to the point that I was even able to put a bandage on myself. I had my stitches in for 2 weeks. I think it was a little bit over 2 weeks, and my skin started to grow over the stitches, which was wonderful. It was great. Probably could have had my stitches out at day 10, but by the time that I had asked my friend who works in healthcare whether or not I could get them out, it was already past 5. The office that I was going to had already closed, and I wasn't about to go to the ER just to get some stitches removed. So I waited until, I think it was the following Monday, maybe it was Tuesday, that I went and got my stitches taken out, and that process really wasn't a big deal. They didn't need to numb me or anything. They just basically cut the knots and pulled them out, and that was it. From then on, healing was still rough, honestly. My posture isn't the greatest, and because this incision was right in the middle of my back, where all the stress from having poor posture is placed right in the middle of the back, my incision site started opening up. At first I was kind of freaked out by it, but I also understood that there wasn't really anything I could do about it. That's just how it was going to be. That's just how the scar's going to heal. I'm sure that if I would have you know, had better posture throughout the whole thing, maybe it wouldn't have split as much, but all in all, that's just how it was. Now I am almost a year out from having this excision, and my scar is looking so much better. It's not red like it was anymore. I ended up getting some silicone medical tape from Amazon. There's some studies that show that having silicone on healing scars helps decrease redness, decrease inflammation, decrease possibilities of keloids. And I used that tape for a while, but again, the placement of it is just kind of awkward. The tape didn't really stay very well because the middle of your back, you know, the skin on your back moves every time you move. Whereas somewhere on your arm, you can keep your arm still and not really have to worry about all that skin moving if you're just walking, or if you go to pick something up, or if you're laying down, or you know what I mean? The skin on your back moves so much where you can't really keep it still unless you are just still, you know? At my appointment for the excision, I asked them what they meant by being severely dysplastic. And I knew that that meant that it was very irregular, but I was asking what specific markers did they look at on the tissue sample and say, yeah, that's irregular. What made it irregular? Really, the main thing that the dermatologist told me was the arrangement of nuclei of the cells that made up this mole. They said the arrangement, it looked abnormal. Cancers form when a cell isn't working properly, but it somehow gets past that checkpoint anyways. And this leads to cells dividing more than they should. And that's one of the causes of cancer. Skin cancer is really tricky because it can go unnoticed. I feel like that is what makes it the true killer that it is. If you can notice it quickly and get it treated or get it removed, then it's really not too big of an issue, like mine. It hadn't developed into a cancer yet, but like they said, it was severely irregular. So the dermatologist told me that the nuclei, if you guys go back to cell biology or biology in high school, the nuclei is where all of your DNA is held. And they're saying that the arrangement and the distribution of the nuclei in the cells that made up this mole looked weird. It looked abnormal. So that's why they were saying you should have this removed. Is it cancer right now? No. Could it become cancer? Yes. All it takes is one cancer cell to break off from the original cancer site and travel through your bloodstream or your lymphatic system and land on another part of your body, be it your brain, your liver, your heart, your lungs, your stomach, another part of your skin, any other part of your body. All it takes is one cancer cell to migrate from the original site of the cancer to another one of these tissues and develop a cancer there. And that makes it metastatic cancer. And that puts it into another level, or stage. I'm going to insert a picture, a graphic of these 5 stages, just so that you guys can see what I'm talking about while I'm talking about it. Makes sense, right? So there are 5 stages, with the first being stage 0. That's the tumor, or the cancer, is within just that outer layer, just the epidermis of the skin. And this means that it has not spread to any other tissues, it's just in its primary location. This is where you would hope that you catch your cancer. This is why it's important to do self-checks, because if you can catch the cancer in this stage, it's relatively easy to get rid of and not have to go through any other treatments like chemotherapy or radiation. So, check your body, check your moles, see if they're changing. The next stage, stage 1. Stage 1 goes 2 millimeters into the skin. Think about how small 2 millimeters is, okay? Very, very, very small amount that can go into your skin, and it's already into the next stage. This basically is meaning that it has moved through the epidermis and it's infiltrated into the lower parts of the skin, which would just be the dermis. It's into the dermis. So the next stage, stage 2. Stage 2 is when the tumor, the cancer, is 1 millimeter thick and it has ulcerated, or it's 2 millimeters thick with or without ulceration, and there's no evidence that it has been spread to any nearby lymph nodes or anywhere else in the body. Stage 3, this is when your skin cancer has spread beyond its primary site. This means that some of these cancer cells that make that mole have traveled through your bloodstream or lymphatic system and traveled to other parts of your body. There's 4 sub-stages of stage 3. I'm going to link the website that I'm referencing if you guys want to read about all these different stages, but for the sake of time on this video, I'm not going to go into it right now. And then the last stage, stage 4, it has spread to distant parts of your body, and that's your brain, lungs, liver, things like that, whereas stage 3, it's spread, but it hasn't spread very far. I hope all this makes sense. I know it's confusing, and that's one of the reasons I want to make this video, because it is confusing, but understanding it can be life-saving. Something that I want to mention about moles and about melanoma, skin cancer, is it doesn't just have to spread out in diameter or size of the mole to become cancerous. It can spread down into the layers of the skin without spreading out. Not only do you need to be looking for moles that are getting bigger, but there's other signs to look for. Something to help you remember what to look for when you're looking at moles. It's called the ABCDEs of melanoma. A is asymmetry. It's not symmetrical. It's not a perfect circle or a perfect oval. One side might be bigger than the other. If you were to just cut it right down the middle, it looks not symmetrical. B is for border. This is talking about the outline of the mole and whether or not it's irregular, or the outside of melanomas are often squiggly and they do weird things, and it just doesn't look smooth like a normal mole or freckle would look. C is color, whether or not the color is similar to other moles in the area, whether it's darker. One thing my dermatologist told me at my primary appointment when I had the biopsy done is she was concerned because this mole seemed more red than what she typically sees in moles. However, there were a few other moles close by on my back that also had that red hue. So she said that's kind of helpful in a way. It's similar to the moles around it, and that gave her a little bit less concern, but the fact that it was red was still something that kind of sends off a red flag in her brain. D is diameter, and this is talking about how big it is, how wide it is, how long it is, and they say that if it's bigger than the end of a pencil eraser, 1/4 of an inch, probably about that much, or 6 millimeters. If it's larger than that, then you should be keeping your eye on it, because most moles and freckles are smaller than that. E is for evolving. Has this mole changed recently? That was the big tip off for me, was that my mole had gotten bigger, and also comparing the photos, the borders of it had changed, the shape of it had changed. That was the main thing that I noticed when I was looking at mine. I think I about covered everything that I was wanting to mention. But really my main thing that I want to say, my ending note, is please be familiar with the moles and freckles on your body. If you've seen Grey's Anatomy, you know that one of the characters, Izzy, she starts hallucinating her dead fiance. And she eventually finds a mole on her back, and she believes that this mole was the origin of the cancer that had spread throughout her body and into her brain. That's why she was having those hallucinations. And really, that's one thing that also made me go, ooh, I should get this checked out. I don't want cancer. I don't want cancer anywhere, especially, somewhere like my brain. Please be familiar with the moles on your body, and whether that's just taking pictures of them, or having a loved one or a good friend help you take pictures on the places that you can't really see. That would be a great thing too. But just be familiar with the moles on your body. One thing that I've learned through this is that you can have new moles pop up on your skin all the way through to your 30s. It's not uncommon for new moles to pop up all the way up until then. And another thing to note, if you have moles or freckles, you are already more predisposed to develop melanoma than someone who doesn't have any moles or freckles. Maybe every month, go through, visually check everything, have a loved one or good friend help you check places that you can't really see, just so that you're keeping an eye on them and you know what they look like, you know what they typically look like, so that if one of them starts to change, you can make an appointment with a dermatologist and have them check it out. At my 6-month follow-up, I had a few moles that I said, this one looks kind of weird, this one looks, the coloring is uneven, and all of them, she said, they don't look super abnormal to me. I'm still keeping an eye on them, but it's definitely nice to have a professional tell me, keep an eye on it, but you should be fine. There's no reason to get a biopsy. So please be familiar with your moles. Check them every month, at least every 6 months. Number 2, wear sunscreen and limit your time outside. Now, being on the other side of this, I really try to go for SPF 50, but beyond that, I try to cover my skin as much as I can. I don't lay out to tan anymore. This is the palest I've ever been at this point in the summer, because I just said, I don't care if I'm tan. I mean, I like being tan, but if I really want to be tan, I'm just gonna buy some fake tanner and that'll be good enough for me, because I'm highly aware of what it's like to have a big chunk of skin cut out from my body and the healing process, and also the thought of, what if I hadn't caught this early? What if it had turned into melanoma? That could have killed me, and it's just not worth being tan. I hope this is a lesson that you guys can learn through me instead of having to learn it yourself, because now I'm going to live with this big ugly scar on my back for the rest of my life. Is it the worst thing in the world? No. Is the scar still healing? Yes. Is it going to look better and better throughout the years? Yes. But still, I'm constantly aware of this scar. Wear sunscreen, cover up with clothes as much as you can, check your moles, and make an appointment to go see a dermatologist if something looks abnormal to you. I think that just about covers everything that I wanted to say. If you guys stuck around to the end of this video, thank you so much. I hope you guys learned something. I hope you guys will wear sunscreen and wear more clothes. And yeah, that's all I've got for you today.